Welcome back into the Arrowhead Pride Rapid Reaction Show. I am Steven Serda, joined as always by my guy, Rocky Magana. Kramer Sanson in the background helping us keep this thing moving tonight here on Saturday, divisional round weekend across the NFL. Kansas City Chiefs advanced to their fifth straight AFC title game after a 27-20 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Incredibly gutsy performance from Patrick Mahomes, who suffered a serious ankle injury in the first quarter of this game. But most importantly, Rocky, this is going to be Chad Henne's sixth straight AFC championship game after he came in for an injured Patrick Mahomes and just said, I got you, Big Red. I got you, Pat, and drove 99 yards to score a touchdown. So fifth straight for the Kansas City Chiefs, sixth straight for Chad Henne, who is going to go down as just one of the all-time backup quarterbacks here in Kansas City.
In the great words of the great Rocky Balboa, who I am named after, in life, it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's what the Chiefs did today. The Chiefs, the Jacksonville Jaguars thought they might have got a knockout punch there against Mahomes, against the Chiefs when Mahomes went down. And Chad Henne said, nah, like you said, Chad Henne came in and said, you know what, I got this. 99 yards, that ain't nothing, son. If you're having girl problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 yards, and I'm going to get a touchdown, son. It was amazing. It was great. That was the worst rap in history, but this was the best Chiefs game in the world. I am on cloud 9 today, baby.
What an impressive win by the Kansas City Chiefs. And I was talking to you before we got going here, and it's something I've been kind of discussing on the Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network all throughout this week. Like, there was a lot of feeling that Jacksonville was going to like shock the world and upset the Kansas City Chiefs this week ahead of this game. And while I think Jacksonville is a super fun young team, I think Trevor's going to be a great NFL quarterback. And I think that they're building something there that's going to be good here in the next couple of years in Jacksonville. They aren't on the same level as the Kansas City Chiefs. And I really felt like people were disrespecting what the Kansas City Chiefs had done this season coming into this game, acting like, you know, this red hot Jags team was just going to come into Arrowhead of all places and beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round of the playoffs. Like, I'm glad that they played the Jags and not the Chargers, but I just thought it was absolutely ridiculous. And prior to Patrick Mahomes' ankle injury in this game, like, Patrick Mahomes was playing lights out. Like, he was playing unconscious on the football field, and it looked like he was going to go out there and drop 45 points today if he doesn't suffer that first quarter ankle injury.
I mean, he was making MVP throw after MVP throw out of the gates. I mean, like, this was prime time playoff Mahomes prior to his injury. And with the Jaguars thing, man, everybody just loves an underdog. Everybody likes the upstart. Everybody likes the Cinderella. Everybody wants to try to get behind the team that's never done it before. The Jags haven't beaten the Chiefs in a decade. The Chiefs are the perennial favorites to go to the AFC Championship game every single year, and they're always Super Bowl contenders. The Jags have, you know, they've had the number one pick overall back-to-back years prior to this. And so everybody is thirsty for new blood and wants to see, you know, the Kings fall. But when you're coming for the crown, you can't just go after the king. You got to go after his soldiers also. And guess what, man? Isaiah Pacheco today on that 99-yard drive, oh my doggone gosh. That guy was a workhorse. He was a warrior. He was an animal. Put whatever adjective or verb or whatever you want to put on his name, and it's understatement. That guy was amazing on that 99-yard drive.
Yeah, Isaiah Pacheco was fantastic today. Another rookie 7th-round pick for the Kansas City Chiefs, Jalen Watson, comes up with just an incredible one-handed interception at a key moment in the game where, you know, Jacksonville. Sorry, Lily's really excited for the Chiefs win too right now. But, you know, Jacksonville is driving, looks like they're going to score. Then the Jamal Agnew fumble, and then to come back on the next series and have that Jalen Watson interception. It was just incredibly gutsy performance by the Kansas City Chiefs on both sides of the ball tonight.
I mean, just an extremely athletic play on the ball by Jalen Watson, too. I mean, just to make that one-handed interception, with the game on the line to seal the game for his team. I mean, like you don't want to put too much on a 7th-round rookie, they say, right? But guess what? We're at the end of the season. Regular season's over. Your rookie season is over. This is playoff football. You're a contributing member of a playoff football team, and you're expected to go out there and do your job. And guess what? The young guys came up big today when it was needed. Pacheco, Watson. I mean, even Williams had a couple good plays out there. Chenal was in on a few plays. I mean, this draft class looks like a home run at this point by Brett Veach, and it was the chunk plays killed him to an extent on defense, but when push came to shove, this team showed grit, and people don't give the Chiefs a lot of credit for their grit. Everybody thinks that the Chiefs are all style points. Guess what? The Chiefs came out and they had a gutty, gritty, hit you in the mouth performance tonight when they needed it, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, it was just an incredibly gutsy football game, and credit to the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes leaving and not really realizing if he's going to return because they immediately say he's questionable to return. We saw the clip of him arguing with Rick Burkholder and Andy Reid about going to the locker room because he clearly didn't want to go. Like, he just wanted to stay in the football game. And for the Chiefs to have the composure to just say, okay, we got this. Send him to the locker room. Let him get checked out. Let's make sure he's okay. And then to hold it down and to not only do that, to go on a 99-yard scoring drive, it just says a lot about this team in general. It was just an incredible performance by them. Huge win. Advanced to your 5th straight AFC championship game. And, we don't know quite yet if that's going to be in Kansas City or if that's going to be Atlanta. We'll find out after tomorrow's Cincinnati Bengals Bills game. But man, let's enjoy this one tonight, Kansas City. Let's have a good time. Let's crack a few cold ones. Let's enjoy the ride while we can, because this was an absolutely special performance that we're going to remember for a really long time here in Kansas City. And before we really break down, the different sides of the ball, I really want to get into the offense, because I'm not going to take a ton from second half Patrick Mahomes in this game. Like, we saw him seriously hobbled by that ankle injury. Like, it was changing his throws, and he looked kind of inaccurate for a lot of the second half because he couldn't plant on the foot. He clearly couldn't push off of it. And so he kind of started changing things up where he was really it was just all arm. Like, he's not moving his hips or planting off of his foot. But it says something about his talent. But I'm not going to take a ton away from his performance in the second half because he is so hobbled. And obviously that's a concerning injury, but you hope that he's going to be healthy enough and good to go. And he said after the game, there's no way I'm not going to play in that game. So I would have to imagine after gutting it out in the second half, he'll be good to go for the AFC Championship game. But prior to that injury, Rocky, he looked as clean as we've seen him look in a while. He looked like he was absolutely dialed in, like he was laser focused, like he was ready to go out there and drop 50 points on this Jaguars team today if he didn't suffer that first quarter ankle injury.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, let's talk about the ankle for a second, because if it's one part of the body with injuries, I know kind of intimately, it's ankle injuries. When I was in junior high, I had a really bad wrestling ankle injury that left me with arthritis in my left ankle to this day. And there'll be days where I wake up and I can't move my left ankle at all. And I can't walk, I can't get out of bed and put weight on it. But guess what happens? The more you warm it up, the more mobility you get back and the more you can play on it. And it's the same thing with a sprained ankle too. The more you just got to get it warmed up. He was coming off that injury in the second quarter, and you could see as the game went on, the more that ankle got warmed up and the more mobility he got back in it, the better he played. And so, yeah, that whole second quarter is just a wash. The hop to get the stretch run out there, that's just all 100% heart and guts. And anybody who's hurt their ankle before knows it's excruciating right after an ankle injury. Your whole bottom of your leg is throbbing. And the fact that he gutted through that is just, it's amazing. Like it was like, you can't, like, if you ever thought if Patrick Mahomes was a prima donna or just a guy who didn't care about winning, and I don't think any Chiefs fan ever thought that. But there's ever been another fan base that ever questioned this guy's desire to win for his team. This was the answer tonight.
It just says a ton about him as an individual and as a competitor. But it's a good reminder that he has played through something like this in the past. During the 2019 season, he got injured early in that year and played for several weeks with an ankle that they had to monitor, and that kept popping back up. He kept taking hits, and you'd see him kind of moving around slow and limping around the football field. But he still played through it and still played well enough to win football games. And at this stage in the season, like, you're just not going to keep him out of games barring something more significant. And so we're lucky that he didn't like seriously break anything. It just seems like it's a sprain and he should be good to go next week. But overall, I was really impressed with the Chiefs offensively early on in this game. And then later on in the game, I was too. Like, the Mahomes touchdown drive to really just extend the lead right after Jacksonville scores a touchdown too, to get within 3 points, and they desperately need to go find a way to score to make sure they can extend this thing. And Patrick Mahomes does it and takes him down the field. Like, it was just an impressive performance from him. And after the offensive line was getting kind of worked early in that game, I think that they kind of settled down and they played a lot better protecting him in the second half and giving him some pockets and some time to throw, because they know, hey, he can't bail us out tonight. Like, he can't run around today. He doesn't have the mobility that he normally does. And so I thought in the second half, I thought the offensive line played a lot better after they were not playing very well, especially early on in that football game.
Well, I think that if ever there was a moment where Andy went to his offensive line and had a come to Jesus conversation with him, it's when he put Mahomes back in that game. And he was probably like, listen here, you better keep this MFer upright. I know Andy doesn't cuss, but I mean, you better keep this guy upright, because our whole season is riding on you doing your job right now and you stepping up when we need you to. And I mean, also Jerick McKinnon and pass protection. Jerick McKinnon, I mean, picking up the blitz and keeping Mahomes clean enough to get these passes off. And then I think the thing that's kind of been overlooked a little bit by us to this point is just how big Travis Kelce was today. I mean, he was the safety blanket all day long, early on for Mahomes, for Henney, and then later in the game for Mahomes as well. I mean, Kelce, he had 14 catches at one point. I'm not sure what he ended the game with, but I mean, he had a career day almost, for the postseason. And he really, really like when your biggest star goes down, you need your other stars to step up. And he really did.
Yeah, it really shouldn't have taken us 13 minutes into this post-game show to mention Travis Kelce today. It was just unbelievable. 14 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns off of 17 targets. Like, you could feel this game coming from Travis Kelce, because I know he's had some big yardage games over the last few weeks and had some quiet games, but had a 6-game scoreless streak coming into this game. So I felt like you could feel Travis Kelce was for sure going to find the end zone today. And you should have listened to my advice and taken a Travis Kelce first score bet on DraftKings Sportsbook, because that cash today, and Travis Kelce, it was apparent from the early going, like, they knew this is our Hall of Famer. We're getting him involved. We're not playing around with MVS and Justin Watson today. We're getting that guy the football, and we're going to let him make plays.
And I think next week, because regardless, you got to assume at this point Mahomes is playing next week, but he's not going to be 100%. So, you got to figure that McKelsey is going to be playing in pretty significantly moving down the stretch here, and that they're going to the offense is going to kind of run through him from here on out. But that being said, I mean, Mahomes to Kelce is the bread and butter that they've kind of built, their legacy on. And one thing also to be mentioned about Mahomes playing next week with an injury, let's not forget he played in the Super Bowl with a pretty bad turf toe injury that put him in a walking boot for a few months after the season, last time, the Chiefs played in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, once Mahomes kind of gets used to playing with that injury, I think that you're going to see the playbook kind of and the offense kind of just resume where it was. He had to get used to what he can and cannot do now with this injury, but I don't see him really cutting down the playbook at all.
It's before we move over to the defensive side of the ball, you already mentioned Isaiah Pacheco, and man, his development has a chance to be something really big for them here in the postseason because Patrick Mahomes goes down. They really have to lean on the run. And Isaiah Pacheco has one of the best games of his career. Like Isaiah Pacheco was fantastic today when he was called upon, when they said, okay, we got to lean on you, man. We made you our early down running back this season as a 7th-round rookie, and we need you to be the guy that we can lean on right now, that we can grind out some yards with because the franchise isn't in the game at the moment. And Isaiah Pacheco stepped up. And I think the biggest complaint about Pacheco is that, like, we've seen his tackle breaking ability. We've seen small flashes of his explosiveness, but the biggest problem in his game so far in his young career is he just doesn't seem to see the field very well. He runs straight into the offensive line a lot. He runs straight into contact a lot instead of trying to avoid it. And on that 40-yard run, which was the longest of his career so far, you finally saw him, he runs into the line, but then looks up and is like, oh, there's a lot of green over there, and breaks it to the outside. And you see the explosiveness. He's got the speed to break those things off. He just hasn't been particularly good at it this season, even though he's had moments where he's looked like a very good NFL running back. So if they get him to continue to develop and he can play like this throughout the playoffs, especially with Patrick Mahomes having a bum ankle, like Isaiah Pacheco's performance could be huge down the stretch for this team moving forward.
I mean, I feel like Pacheco this year is kind of our Damian Williams, right? Like that guy that, like coming into the year, you had some hopes for him, but you didn't really see it until the playoffs started. And honestly, like his vision still isn't the greatest. Like you said, he ran into the line before he busted out that long run. But guess what? Like hard work, determination, and effort and just attitude will get you a long ways. Like if you're built like Isaiah Pacheco, you can almost get 4 yards on attitude and effort alone, which is what he does. Nobody runs harder. He looks like Andy Reid was right. It looks like he's trying to hurt the ground with every single step he takes, when he runs the ball. And that alone makes up for any other deficiencies that he has. And so, I mean, I'm fine with it. Like, run into the line first and then bounce it outside. As long as it works, who am I to judge, man? It's working, then do it.
So I want to remind you guys, if you're in the comments, use hashtag AP Rapid Reaction Show. We'll get to some of your observations from the game at the end of the show. And we will also have all the post-game press conferences immediately following this show if you're listening to us on the podcast page. Now, defensively, they came up with some huge stops. Like, there was huge key moments in this game for the Chiefs defensively. And, Frank Clark, playoff Frank, comes up with a huge sack early in the game. And then really after that, it was just kind of quiet from the Chiefs. But it was also kind of a strange game plan from Doug Peterson, where I felt like he was being really conservative in the first half of this game and really even into the second half, where it seemed like he was afraid of the Chiefs pass rush and the pressure that they could put on Trevor Lawrence. And we know that Trevor Lawrence, when you put a lot of pressure on him this season, his numbers aren't very good. Like, that's the key to disrupting their entire offense, is getting pressure on Trevor. And I just felt like maybe that was the plan. Just have everything quick, short routes, like to get the ball out of his hands as fast as possible and try to keep the Chiefs from being able to put the pressure on him. But they still managed to do that. And they still managed to make enough plays, even though, who was it? George Karlaftis being on Christian Kirk is not really what you want to see in the red zone. But that happens sometimes with the Spags defense for some reason, but it's not really what you want. But Spags was aggressive. He tried to put pressure on Trevor Lawrence. Frank Clark gets a sack. Chris Jones did not register his first playoff sack. So we'll have to wait one more week for that. I think he's got one in him this playoffs. I think Chris Jones is going to get a sack eventually in the postseason, but he didn't get one today. But overall, the Chiefs defensively were just solid today. Like, they made enough plays. Forcing the back-to-back turnovers was the thing that changed the game in the fourth quarter. So hats off to that side of the ball. They did their job today, and they did enough to obviously win this football game with a hobbled Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, it was one of those games on the defense where it seemed a little uneven. You would have these amazing, pass rush plays or even defensive stops and plays in the secondary, and then they give up a chunk play, right? Like chunk plays nearly killed this defense today at some point. Now, there was a chunk there in the middle of the game where neither offense was doing much of anything. And a lot of that is, Doug Peterson just playing it really, really close to the vest. And I think that he was afraid of the Chiefs pass rush, and he was afraid of Trevor Lawrence having to push the ball downfield. And I think he thought to himself, okay, so Mahomes is injured. If we can run the ball efficiently, kind of move the ball down the field, 4 yards at a time, we can get a couple of scores and then put the pressure on the Chiefs to try to put up some points. It didn't work out for him. It was the wrong call. He must have forgot who he was talking to and who he was playing against, because Mahomes on one leg is still better than Trevor Lawrence. I'm sorry. Mahomes on one leg is still better than would name a quarterback. Josh Allen. I'd take Mahomes on one leg over Josh Allen. I'd take Mahomes on one leg over John Elway. I'd take Mahomes on one leg over almost any quarterback in the NFL. And I know I'm a homer when I say this, but I don't care, Steven Serda. I don't care. This is playoff football. I get to be a little bit of a fan sometimes. And today he did the damn thing, and I couldn't be happier. But going back to the defensive side of the ball, I got to get off my hose. We're talking defense here. Derek Notty's sack on Trevor Lawrence was one of the nastiest sacks I've seen in a really long time. I mean, just completely unblocked.
It was just him being like, I'm stronger than all of you. Get out of the way.
And just clotheslined him. Just clotheslined Trevor Lawrence. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, I think overall you got to be pretty happy with that defensive performance. Yeah, there were some highs and lows. I don't think Nick Bolton had a particularly good game today. I don't think Willie Gay had a particularly good game today. Justin Reed and Juan Thornhill had some lows and then some highs. Like it was kind of up and down on the defensive side of the ball. And I do think that they got helped out a little bit by Doug Peterson's conservative play calling in this game, which is weird because he's generally known for being a little bit more aggressive and kind of pushing the envelope. Like they had early on in the game, they had a 4th and 2 well inside Chiefs territory in the red zone. And Doug decides to kick a field goal as opposed to trying to pick up the 4th and 2, which at that point in the game, I was like, you could probably easily pick that up, Doug. Like, what are we doing here? And I just thought that his conservative approach to the game, I think, kind of slowed them offensively just throughout the entire game. And to the Chiefs' credit, they made enough plays to get out of this game and to go win the football game and advance to their 5th straight AFC championship game. So I don't have a lot of complaints. There was no real huge special teams gaffes, but they almost tried. They tried this week, Rocky. Harrison Butker, I don't know why he keeps short-legging these kickoffs into the end zone. They gave up 2 big returns today, and the second kickoff where Butker short-legs it into the end zone to Jamal Agnew would have been a touchdown if it wasn't for Harrison Butker making a game-changing tackle by tackling Jamal Agnew on that drive, because he was gone if Butker doesn't make that play. So he at least gets some points for doing that and not giving up the score, and he didn't miss any field goals. There was nothing else other than the 2 big returns to point out on special teams and be like, again, I'm sick of that unit. Like they were pretty solid today, other than the 2 big kick returns.
I mean, yeah, Butker was kind of his own worst enemy, and then also made himself the hero too. Like what are you doing short-legging it there? But then you saved the touchdown, so I can't be mad at you, right? It was pure effort on Butker's part. And honestly, Butker kicking looked better than he has, in a long time. This is one of Butker's best kicking games that we've seen out of him as far as like a field goal, perspective goes. You're right about the linebackers didn't play their best game today. Nick Bolton did not have his best game today. I think that one of the biggest problems that the Jags had was that they didn't run the ball enough. Like I would have ran Travis Etienne about 20 more times in the game. Trevor Lawrence wasn't doing a ton. And at one point, in the first half, they showed that stat. Chiefs were giving up 7.2 yards a carry. Are you kidding me? Why didn't you run the ball every single time until they stopped you?
Yeah, and that was another instance where, like, to start the second half, they were gashing the Chiefs on the ground, and then they just went away from it. Like, it was just kind of questionable decision making from Doug Peterson that I think played right into the Chiefs' hands today. But whatever, you'll take it. You leave Arrowhead Stadium with a win on your way to your fifth straight AFC Championship game. Just absolutely unbelievable run. And we don't know who they're going to play yet next week, but it's going to be a good game as long as Patrick Mahomes is healthy. You know, he's going to go out there and do everything within his power to try to get back to another Super Bowl. So gutsy performance by everybody, especially Patrick Mahomes, and just an absolutely unbelievable run that this team is on right now.
I mean, this is the first step of hopefully our next, Super Bowl run, that we go on. And what an exciting way to start the postseason for the Chiefs. It's not the way we wanted to start the postseason, but man, that was not a boring game to watch, Steven Serda. That was an exciting and fun game that got you out of your seat. And just, I mean, I couldn't be happier. Like I think a lot of times as Chiefs fans, we want to win with style and we want to win by a lot. And sometimes we're upset after a victory. I'm guilty of that more than anybody. I'm guilty of that. Somebody called me the Carl Sheffers of podcasting because I'm pretty sure it was a week after I wasn't happy when we won the game and I was kind of critical. And so I'll wear that mantle. But guess what, man? Like this is playoff football. Every win is a good win. And what a fun way to start this journey to hopefully our third Super Bowl trophy.
Yeah. I think they're going to either face the Cincinnati Bengals at home at Arrowhead Stadium, or they will have to travel to Atlanta for the neutral site AFC title game against the Buffalo Bills. I think both teams bring their matchup problems. I don't know at this point if either team, if I'd say like, I'd much rather play this team over that team. They're both really good teams. They're both Super Bowl contending teams, but I'm kind of feeling like Cincinnati's got a good chance against Buffalo tomorrow afternoon. So maybe we'll be getting another AFC Championship game against the Bengals at Arrowhead Stadium. What do you think about that, Rocky?
I mean, neither team looked like world beaters last week, and so I'll take either one of these paper champions to give us another shot at them. I want the Bengals. Yeah, I want the Bengals to win tomorrow because this whole like 0-3 against the Bengals and Joe Mixon running his mouth about the Bengals being the kings of the AFC and all of this. We gotta silence and end that narrative. Like we've beaten the Bills in the playoffs. The Bills are kind of a back and forth team. But this whole like we haven't beaten the Bengals thing, it's got to end. I can't spend another off season with the Chiefs not beating the Bengals. And so I want the Bengals again. I want them in Arrowhead Stadium, and I want to see us shut down Jamar Chase, and I want to see Chris Jones put freaking. I'm so worked up. I can't remember the quarterback's name right now.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. There we go. I can put Burrow on the ground. Put him on the ground multiple times. I want to see Chris Jones finish the sack against Joe Burrow.
So we'll find out tomorrow afternoon between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills where the Chiefs will be going for next week's AFC Championship game. But they've won. They've advanced. Now they've got 8 days to try to make sure Patrick Mahomes' ankle is healthy and make sure everyone is absolutely good to go. Maybe there's a small chance McCole Hardman could be available next week. Clyde and Jody Fortson return to practice this week, though I don't know if you really want to shake up the running back rotation with Clyde at this point in the season, but they might be available. It seems like they're mostly healthy, and it seems like everything is working in the Chiefs' favor right now to hopefully advance to another Super Bowl. So hopefully next Sunday we're sitting here drinking beers and celebrating with everyone in Kansas City about the Chiefs going back to another Super Bowl. At least that's how I'm hoping our Sunday ends next week.
Oh man, 100%. Like that's like if the Chiefs go to another Super Bowl next week, I mean, we're just gonna have to probably drink take a drink during the podcast. I mean, we're
I
gonna be
will be drinking.
we will
during
be drinking during the podcast if the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl next week. And I can't be held accountable for any of the joyous explicitives that may come out of my mouth. We may have to put an explicitive label on the podcast next week if the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl.
If the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, and Kramer, I might need your help with this. I'll send out our link to the video, and listeners and Chiefs fans can come in, have a drink with us, and celebrate another Super Bowl berth with us. So
yeah,
they got to win the game first, because obviously this thing's a lot less fun when they lose, and it's a lot less fun for me and Rocky, just as it might be for you guys. But if the Chiefs go to another Super Bowl next week, I will invite all of you to come celebrate with us here on the Arrowhead Pride Rapid Reaction Show. Again, Chiefs win, advance their 5th straight AFC title over the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you're listening to us on the podcast, remember, we got all the post-game press conferences coming up for you immediately after the show. You can follow Rocky on Twitter at Rocky Magana. You can follow Kramer at Kramer Talks. I'm Steven Serda. That's where you can find me. We'll have plenty of AFC Championship game coverage for you at arrowheadpride.com this week on the Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network. So make sure you're locked in. We will talk to you guys on Monday.